such an asshole!
Hey everybody, this is the old captain here, and this is assholeconsulting.com. You can go there if you have questions. And if you are, what I predict many of you will be because of the topic of this video, you will be new to this channel. I run a company called Asshole Consulting, and people are sick and tired of liars, deceiters, regular consultants, and other charlatans in the world. They want to get the actual truth. Well, I'm terribly sorry. The only people that tell truth today are assholes, and I'm the world's only professional one that does. So if you have a question, you want the honest take on it, because you're afraid your parents or teachers or guidance counselors or professors or therapists aren't going to tell you what you need to hear, you need a swift kick in the ass, you pay me. And a young man writes, John writes, "Hey Aaron, you told me to email you here regarding my request for information on how to meet smarter people online and in person. I'm an American living in Spain, so I understand if you just mentioned online. To summarize my problems, I have suffered from serious clinical depression since I left for college at 18 years old. I'm 34 next month. I need to find something to do for work where I work with really smart people because I can't stand talking to most people. I also want friends close to my intelligence level. I'd be willing to move back to the United States if I could find a job where I don't hate talking to other people I work with. Let me know how much you want and the best way to communicate. Thanks, best, John." All right, John. So I did take some notes because this is a problem for other people as well, not just you. You'll definitely want to take a look at your depression because, frankly, I really don't believe in depression. I'm an asshole. I'm terribly sorry. Yeah, I've been depressed. So's everybody been else. And you now have lived almost half of your life depressed. So I don't give a shit if it's your motherfucking therapists or counselors or what they're telling you. Inevitably, motherfucker, it's up to you to get over that shit. And that is definite. If you're depressed, no one likes hanging out with Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's why it was a movie. Because in the real world, Ferris Bueller wouldn't hang out with Cameron. That just would not have happened. Anyway, so going on to those, this is a very common problem, especially for intelligent people. I wrote a book called Curse of the High IQ. You can go ahead and read it, but this is something that will benefit everybody. So I had to sit and think this through. And the common conventional advice would be, oh, you want to find smart people? Well, then go to where the smart people are. You know, go to TED Talks, go to seminars, go to grad school. Get into a career or profession, you know, go to work, go to industry meetings. That's where you're going to find intelligent people. And that's logical, but the problem is it's not how it works in the real world. Because there are two variables, one chronological and one statistical, that are undermining or not necessarily, that makes it sound conscious, that really make it an uphill battle for intelligent people to find equivalently intelligent friends. And so whereas the common sense thing was, oh, go to a meetup, go here, go there. Friends, it's not just finding people who are intelligent. There are all these other variables and statistics that are involved that make finding friends harder than merely finding intelligent people, right? So the first thing we want to look at is a problem with, I said it was chronological, but this is more the standard life cycle path that people take. And that is, once you are, well, in my day it was 5, but now we can't wait to rush and ship our children out, outsourcing them to daycare. I mean, taking our loving children and giving them the best education possible as early as possible. But now it's like 3 or 4. We put kids, starting at 3 or 4, and certainly 5, we put kids in an artificial environment, and that is called school. And they stay there for almost 20 years. Okay, so it starts at kindergarten, and then you go to high school. So at minimum, that's 13 years with kindergarten. Most people then move on to go into college, which, although you're technically out of school, you're, quote, in the real world, you're really not. You're still in school. You're still in college. And it's an artificial environment. And the reason I say it's artificial, among many other reasons, is that you are forcing kids of the same age group to be in the same environment for 8 hours a day. Sometimes 10 if you include the bus ride, and certainly more if you include before and after school activities. And what a lot of people I've found, smart people I've talked to and smart friends that I have, certainly in my case, you had no trouble making friends. You had no trouble finding friends. You had no trouble finding intelligent people. And the reason why is that it's more or less for the first time in the grand scheme of human history, we force all the kids in a region to attend the same area. So even though very intelligent people, let's just say for the sake of having a number, the top 5%, you may be out on the farm in some small village and you may be very intelligent, top 5%, and there's only 1 in 20 people that are as smart as you. Back in the olden days, chances are you'd be the smartest person. You wouldn't have an equivalent. You wouldn't have an intellectual equal. Well, now you will find, especially if you conglomerate at high school, 1,000, 2,000 kids, you're going to find a couple score of kids that are of your same or equivalent or even higher intelligence. Then you go to college, and even there, it's the numbers make it even more so, especially if you go to a big public school. I went to the University of Minnesota. There's 50,000 people at the University of Minnesota. So there are hundreds then of similarly intelligent people. And you don't think about this when you're a kid. You don't even think about it when you're an adult. You are brought up under this temporary environment, this false, fake environment of school, where you are surrounded with enough people of your age cohort that you will naturally find friends. Like, you never have to try to find friends. You will always, oh yeah, and then it happens naturally. Hell, it happens subtly. You don't realize what's going on, and you take it for granted that you will always be able to have friends. So when you're in college, I remember, God almighty, my graduation party, we had 250 people come through. It was a great party. 2 days, 4 cakes of it. It was a wonderful time. Anyway, and you think that's going to go on forever, and worse, you think that that is normal. Because here's another thing very intelligent people don't know about themselves. They don't realize that they're very intelligent. This is why I always advocate that as early as possible you test your IQ. You get your children's IQ tested, and if your parents haven't tested, you go get your IQ tested. If you can't afford a real IQ test, go online to queendom.com. It's not terribly accurate, but it'll give you a ballpark figure, and you'll realize, oh my God, I'm really that intelligent. And that's the other thing. You can have your IQ tested. You can have a 4.0. But from the context of the individual, the student, be it a child or an adult in college, you never really think of yourself as intelligent. Why? Because you're going to surround yourself with friends who are maybe half a standard deviation less intelligent and half a standard deviation more intelligent. And your environment that you're surrounded in, you are average within that cohort or peer group of friends. All right, it's not until you go to Wyoming you find out, oh my God, I'm a fucking genius. Oh. If you're new to the channel, I hate Wyoming. I lived there for a while. It's the who dang diggly doos. Anyway, so you have the mentality. You can have the number right there. You're a genius. Oh, yeah, I'm a genius. But you don't feel that way. You think you're average. And so you think that these are average people you're hanging out with, when little do you realize that these are very brilliant people. And soon they're going to go away. Well, why are they going to go away? Well, the reason why is that this artificial environment ends. You do not have all the kids in the school district in the Tri-County area coming to the same school in that type of mass. You do not have the same environment where kids from out of state come to the same college by the thousands, wherein you have a lot of peers studying the exact same interests and things and variables that you're all of a sudden like, wow, there's a lot of people who really like economics here. Well, this is just normal. Once you graduate from college, that artificial environment ends, and then you're dumped into the real world. And then you get to face the statistical reality of the fact that you're in the top 5% or 2% or 1% if you're getting up there, like Mensa-like category level of intelligence. So this throws people off. A lot of you maybe have this problem. You're an adult. You're in your, people in their 20s still hang out from college, but inevitably the good old gang splits up. Somebody gets a job down in Texas. Somebody gets a job over in California. Somebody joins the military. Someone gets married, and you think that you're going to continue to find normal people, normal average people, because that's in your mind what you think you are, and you're just having a harder and harder time finding people to go hang out with. Even date. You're like, well, what's that? When? And then as you start to approach your 30s, and many of those you are in your 40s, and certainly if you're in your 50s, you're starting to realize just how hard it is to find someone of equivalent intelligence and having friends. It sneaks up on you because it's not like the day you leave college you lose your entire social network, but it slowly atrophies away, and then someday you wake up in your 30s like, where'd all my friends go? And so that's the next variable we're going to talk about. So the first problem is your expectations, and essentially are set too high in terms of finding intelligent people. You're never going to find the same concentration and number of intelligent people as you did in your immediate circle and environment as you did through college and high school, or K through college. When you leave that environment, it only gets worse. Right? And here's the second problem that we face in finding intelligent people as friends, and that is it's just statistically unlikely, because there's a lot more variables that have to perfectly overlap and Venn diagram to result in you finding intelligent, interesting friends. So I took some notes here, and I apologize for having to do this on the phone, but I can't read and record with this laptop at the same time. So when you get to this stabilized environment, what is equilibrium, this post-fake environment, post-school environment, the real world, there's like 4 or 5, maybe 6 variables that I had to think, okay, well, what makes a good friend? How do you find a good friend? And when you look at these 5 variables and the statistic associated with each of them, mathematically, and even though these are estimates, you start to find out very quickly, or understand why very quickly, it's really hard to find intelligent friends. And the simple answer, there's just not that many of them. So let's take a look at these variables, right? First, they have to be intelligent. So let's just say top 5%. This could be, it doesn't have to be, though, necessarily intelligent. It could be your intelligence plus or minus a little bit of a standard deviation. Now, the Bell distribution curve dips off at the end on the tails for both smart and intelligent. So if you're lucky, you have an IQ of 100, because then you have like thousands because there's a higher percentage within your intelligence range. But once you start getting to, certainly above 1 standard deviation IQ, which is 115, you start to run into problems exponentially with lesser and lesser people. So 5% of the, let's just say, within your range, percentage of the population, that's your intelligence level, is going to be 5%, plus or minus 2.5%. Those are the people you can associate with, all right? Now, intelligence is not the only thing. They also have to have the free time. This is what a lot of you are running into now when you're in 30s and 40s and your 50s. Because in your 20s, you had energy and free time. You had no responsibilities. And you still relatively had the remnants left over of the Roman Empire in the heyday, and you had your friends. As you get older, people get older, they get less energy. Most notably, I'm in my 40s now, and it's like I have tons of friends I used to have that live within 10-mile radius of me. You can't get them to go out. I got one guy that goes to bed at 7:30. Fucker has his slippers on. I'm like, dude, you're only 46. The sun is still out. It's June. What are you doing? Anyway, they get old, they get tired, and some of you in your 30s, you may notice this. Some people breed and have children, and then you never see them ever again. So whether they don't have the energy, whether they simply don't have the time, or a lot of times they move out, that's just what happens. I would say only 1 in 20, I had to go on my personal experience, like how many people do I know in the Twin Cities? What percentage of them do I see with any kind of consistency? And any kind of consistency I sadly put down to like once a quarter, all right, to be considered a friend. Otherwise, you're just kind of like a guy I know. So you're only talking about 5% of the population actually has the free time to go and do these things. Also, similar interests. Not everyone is going to want to do what you want to do, and not everyone's, you're not going to want to do what everyone else wants to do. However, you don't have to have the exact same interests. So I was a little bit liberal in this assumption. I assume basically 30%, a third. That person might like Parcheesi, you like Texas Hold'em, but you both like volleyball. So I would say at least out there you could find somebody with a third of the population. You could find some common ground, some similar interests, right? So that's good. So we have intelligence. They gotta be smart enough. They have the time to hang out, and they have some kind of activity that they would want to hang out with you in. The problem, though, is do you actually like these people? That is a huge thing. That's kind of like what the epitome of a friend is. All of these are vital organs to make the human that makes up a friend. You can't just have a brain, you need a heart, and you can't just have those, you need some lungs. But another thing is, do you like these people? Now, a perfect example, regardless of your politics, I can't stand leftists and liberals. A lot of them are very intelligent. I do not have time for them. Not in my life. No. And then also like corporate douchebags. Very intelligent people. They're on the high IQ scale. Maybe they have the free time. Maybe they like going motorcycle riding. But if you ever hang out with someone who's gone to like either U.S. Bank, Coors, I think it's a commercial lender school, and certainly Wells Fargo, they have another facility. And you hang out with them, all they do is talk about themselves and they're fucking. And Wells Fargo this, Wells Fargo, I got a bank and a $1 million deal. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, you're kind of a douche. You're not, or at least you're not interesting. Or you get a social justice. So I go green and organic, and they never shut up about their fucking religion of going green and organic in their carbon footprint. Could have a high IQ of 150. That's fortunately they haven't channeled it towards anything interesting, productive, or new. It's just regurgitating talking points that they heard in grad school. So you also have to kind of like these people. I'm going to say it's only 5% because, frankly, there's a lot of fucking jerks and assholes in the world, and not cool assholes like me. Then there's age appropriate. You think, okay, well that kind of covered all the variables. Like, no, you could have all the variables we mentioned before, but the person you're hanging out with is 4 years old. Now I have a niece. I don't know what her IQ is. She does have the free time. She is nearby. She totally wants to hang out with me. We have a grand old time. But we do not talk about the differences between Keynesian, Austrian, and the old school Chicago theories of economics. We talk about airplanes and rocks and frogs and balloons and trains. She likes trains and balloons, and that's what we talk about over and over and over again. And then that terribly deep philosophical discussion about the train. It's like, the train! Like, yes, that is the train, just like it was the time before, and the 43,000 times it was before that, but I like the little brat. So obviously age is a variable. I'm going to assume you can hang out with a third. I would almost say maybe 40%, but, I'm 42. Do I want to hang out with a 22-year-old dude, bro, no matter how smart and free time? No, they're 22. Do I want to hang out with an 80-year-old? I'm probably more prone to hang out with the 80-year-old than I am the 22-year-old, because at least that guy or gal's got some wisdom I could listen to. But do they have the energy? Can they get out of the nursing home? No. So we're just going to assume a third. And then this is a big one, proximity. You need to meet in meet space. You need to have people physically there. I know we all have digital friendships and good ones that do grow into real ones when you meet them in meet space in the real world. But proximity is still to this day, even with the traveling technology we have, it's a very limiting factor. And I was trying to figure out the numbers and the statistics on this. I'm like, well, you're within at least 2% of the population, or not 2%. Yeah, 2% of the population. I'm like, well, wait, that's like one state each. Like, do I really drive all the way across the state to visit different people in the state of Minnesota? No. So I looked at percentage of population, which and really the percentage of the twin cities that I'm within, driving that I go and hang out with people, is probably maybe half the population of the state. And so, of course, this also depends on where you live. Are you near a metropolitan area? You're far away. So I'm assuming that any point in time, you only have 0.75%, 0.75% of the population within driving distance. And even that's being somewhat liberal. Now, we take all these variables and multiply them together, and the pool of viable candidates with just these variables, and I'm sure there's maybe some other variables I've skipped over, but these key ones that are definite requirements to have a friend is 0.000009% of the total U.S. population. You can do it globally as well if you want it. If you take that times the 310 million Americans, what we have today, that means you have 29 people in the United States total that you can actually meet. That would be qualified friend candidates. And this is more or less lifetime, and this is just in your area. Now, of course, you can move, certainly, but if you move, you lose the other 29 friends that were in that area. Now you got to go find new friends, which is always hard. So if you think about that, there's 29 friends. And that might act, and I thought about that. I'm like, yeah, that's about right. Over my life, I've really only had about 30 friends. And what's sad is because they're lifetime friends and because of the natural whims and evolution of human time and life, the life cycle, these people come and go into your life. They will move. New ones will come in, but you got to go find them. You got to hunt them down. They will have kids, and you will never see them again. Sometimes they just get old, and they don't go out anymore. People change. So this 29 is not static. They are fluid as their lives change, which means you constantly have to find the new ones, and that takes time, and sometimes you never find them. So at the peak, at most, you will probably have 29 friends. Down the road, maybe maybe consistent friends that you regularly hang out with is a dozen or 10. Okay? So, what are the solutions then? How do you find more intelligent friends? Well, what I did the statistical calculation for is it's a very important lesson that I like pointing out in the different books I read and the consulting I do. And that is, these numbers are pretty finite. And a lot of times there is no solution. This is a fact. Of course, you can argue the assumptions and the estimates. I understand that. But sometimes there are no solutions to a problem. You have stage 5 brain cancer. You're going to die. Your wife divorced you and ain't ever coming back. There's acceptance. That's all there is. And so one of the things I like I cannot solve problems that do not have a problem, but in pointing out they have no problem, we do provide the next best solution, which is sanity. A lot of smart people out there are getting depressed and sad because they cannot find intellectual peers. They cannot, I don't know if you're the same way, but me, I crave intelligent conversation. It's the most important thing to me. You could give me a bar of gold or say a year's worth of free conversation. I say I will take the year's worth of good conversation. And so without that intellectual stimulation, without that friendship, without that camaraderie, without your brain getting that fix that it needs, life sucks, and it's not as good as you think it was going to be, or what you were led to what it would be back in school and college. And so one of the key things you have to do is accept the fact that you may not find the required number of friends, an adequate amount of intellectual people to provide you intellectual conversation or stimulation or friendship. It's just not there. This is where a lot of people then go and read books. Me, I do a lot of motorcycle riding and hiking and adventuring. What I also do is I'll go and actually travel people that I know on the internet, which I'll get to later. But the first step is to admit that there may be no solution to this problem. You statistically speaking, there are very few people, and then that's assuming you're in the top 5%. Like I said, you Mensa guys, I'm on the verge. I'm like in the top 2, depending on what IQ test you want to. It gets exponentially worse. I mean, if you got an IQ of 150, you're fucked. You're just fucked. And then you almost have to work at NASA or someplace, or the NSA or someplace. You almost have to stay in academia, not because they do any fucking real work there, which they don't. I know MIT is going to kick my ass. But I wonder how many people stay in academia just so they have intellectual peers that they can talk to and relate to. So you almost have to really control your environment. So that's one solution. But the other solution, and this is the one I think everyone could kind of do, but it really does depend on your budget, and that is travel. The one thing we do have is the internet. And, count your blessings and count your lucky stars. Could you imagine if you were in medieval Europe and you had an IQ of 160 and everyone else was the village idiot? I mean, you couldn't travel without bandits attacking you. There was no internet. You were stuck with the 50 people in your village and maybe the 50 people in the village down over if you didn't have a fucking rivalry going on with them. So be thankful that we have the internet today. And what the internet allows us to do is, albeit digitally, which is not a substitute or a full substitute for actual physical, not contact, but in-person, real-world meeting. It allows you to meet people that you have never, ever been able to meet in your life ever beforehand, even 50 years ago. Now you can even search by group, by interest, by politics, by religion, by profession, by sexual preference, by anything. And you are almost guaranteed to not only find people, but find people you will make friends with. And I think we've all experienced this. We, no doubt, many of you, if you're watching YouTube, you probably have a Facebook or a MySpace page or something like that. You have developed friendships online with people you have never seen. And the only difference between them and all the friends you've had in your past and your childhood is that you've never met them. You have just as much camaraderie with them. You like them like a brother or a sister. You thoroughly enjoy their conversation. They make you laugh. They make you think. The only problem is that they're out in Las Vegas and you're stuck in fucking Chicago. And the solution to that, and it depends on how you want to prioritize your life, and if you want, you can look up my book, Bachelor Pad Economics, but I say the solution is to go out and visit them. Now, of course, I have a I'm extremely lucky in that this is my job, and obviously I can do this I can do this anywhere. And so I do have the luxury of going and visiting my friends. But if you have the time to go visit your friends, if you have the money, that is what I would dedicate the majority of your disposable income. You know, after you pay for mortgage, housing, retirement, and all that, life is not meant to be sitting there trying to find intellectual stimulation or getting it through a computer screen. It is meant to be going out and meeting people. I mean, just last night, I hung out with two guys, they're fans. We had cigars, and the other guy had to go. And the other guy and I, we just talked like for a good hour about random bullshit. I hadn't had an intelligent conversation like that in quite some time, and neither did he. And you need that. That's what you need. It is worth getting on a plane, getting on a train, getting in your car, and going and hanging out with these people. Ideally, you do like what we do in the internet world, the meetups. We have a meetup, so you have a bunch of people in one area meeting up. You can meet people individually, but that becomes expensive. So you try and have people, like, hey, we're all going to meet in Chicago. So everybody from Illinois kind of meets. Hey, we're all going to meet in Philadelphia. Don't know why you do that, but we're all, then everyone from Pennsylvania and Baltimore and all of them kind of meet up. That is what I recommend. It's expensive, it's time consuming, but it's going to beat you sitting there in the basement on Facebook like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, you're my... You have to go and meet these people in person. So those are the two solutions. One, just accept the fact that you're not going to find that many friends, that there aren't that many friends out there. There's things you could do. Again, major in IT, major in STEM, become an engineer, go work in science, find your field of passion, go to industry conferences and meetings and stuff like that. Go to the TED Talks, go to library function. Okay, that's pretty boring. Go to museums, whatever it is you got to. There's certain things you can do. But in the end, there's not a better filter or a more efficient way that you're going to meet like-minded people of equivalent intelligence than you are through the internet and Facebook and various other forms of social media. And before you die, I strongly recommend you go road trip around this world and you go visit them, because it has been, it's been the most rewarding experience in my life, and it really is to this day the only way I get the intellectual fix that I need. So anyway, hope that helped out. I got a book called Curse of the High IQ. It would benefit if you got a high IQ, or you're having similar situations, or basically you're falling asleep in class, or your boss is an idiot, and you really know he's an idiot, not like he's a jerk, but you're like, God, why doesn't he? Get that book. I have other books online. You can find them on Amazon.com. Just search Aaron Clarey. It's spelled Clarey. I have a podcast, the Clarey Podcast, that is intelligent rambling and screaming and tirading against the interwebs. What the fuck else do I do? Oh yeah, go to assholeconsulting.com if you have any questions. Catch you kids later. Toodles.